Alright, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Surah Qari'ah is a Makki surah. You all know what Makki means by now. The connection of Surah Qari'ah and Surah Takathur. Okay, what's the link between the two surahs? Surah Qari'ah describes some scenes of the Day of Judgment. It describes certain scenarios of the Day of Judgment. And a glimpse of the reward of those who pass the test, and a glimpse of the punishment of those who don't. That is Surah Qari'ah in a nutshell. Okay? Surah Takathur, on the other hand, described why exactly some people were going to be punished. Some of the actions that can lead to such punishments. Right?
Takasur. Surah Takasur describes that. Why?
Think over the translation. What's the reason for the people getting punished in Surah Takathur?
The rivalry and moral increase.
Exactly. So it is that particular slippery slope that leads a person down into getting punishment. So Surah Qari'ah gives a glimpse of punishment. Surah Takathur gives one reason as to why they might be punished, or they might be getting punished. Okay? The word Qari'ah is one of the names of the Day of Judgment. There are a couple of names in the Quran. Al-Haqqa, Qiyamah, As-Sa'ah, which means the hour. Qari'ah is one of the names of the Day of Judgment.
So, Haqqa is the truth, Qiyamah is the resurrection.
Qiyamah means resurrection. As-Sa'ah means the hour.
What does Qari'ah mean?
The word Qari'ah is what we're doing today.
That's correct.
Al-Haqqa,
I thought Qiyamah was the day of standing.
no, but whenever we use these words, we use them to describe the Day of Judgment. Each word might be referring to a specific part of it, but they all refer to the same event. Alright? So Qiyamah refers specifically to resurrection, that when people are resurrected, they will be standing. Nobody will be sitting. Right? The word al-haqqa, which is in Juz 29, means the inevitable. Qiyamah, or the Day of Judgment, is something that is inevitable. It will come regardless of you liking it or not, of you wanting it or not. Right? So it is something that relentlessly comes towards you. Right? So the word Qari'ah is one particular word which describes that event. But the word Qari'ah the word Qari'ah will have different translations. And let's go through the most basic one first. It comes from the word Qara'a. Qaf, Ra, and Ain. Qara'a. It means to hit something very hard. To strike something very hard. Qaf, Ra, and Ain.
So the Qari'ah is an adjective and Qaf Ain is a verb?
It's not an adjective, it's a noun.
No.
It's a noun, right? The word qara'a, which is the verb, means to knock. Okay? To beat, to ring, to sound.
Qara'a?
Yes, it's the verb. So if you want to say that the bell rang, you'll say qara'a al-jaras.
So what's to strike very hard is Qari'ah?
No. Qara'a has one of those meanings.
Okay.
It means to strike. Now, daraba also means to hit, right? But the difference is that this one means to hit something very hard. Okay? Or to make an impression. Beat, bang, whatever you want to say, right? So, al-Qariy'ah. The word al-Qariy'ah is translated in different ways depending on what translation you look at. The one that I'll give you is striking calamity. So what is being striked? Meaning what is hitting them? And the calamity is obviously referring to the Day of Judgment. So the Day of Judgment is something that is hitting.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for the first ayah, is Allah swearing by the day of
No, it's not swearing. Allah starts off by just saying al-Qariy'ah, the striking calamity. Right? The striking calamity. The reason the surah just starts off like this is why the second verse is mal qari'ah. What does ma mean? What? So mal qari'ah, what is qari'ah? Okay? So Allah says al-Qariy'ah, the striking calamity. Mal qari'ah. The immediate response is, what is the striking calamity? What is the striking calamity? And then to add emphasis, as a rhetorical question, Allah says, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِعَةُ. Wa and ma adraka. Do we do this word before? Ma adraka. We did it in Surah Humaza. Wa ma adraka mal hutama.
and what may let you know?
Look. Check your notes. Wa ma adraka means what? We did it in Surah Humaza.
And are you aware?
Are you aware of? Right? وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ. And are you aware of مَا الْقَارِعَةُ? What is al-Qari'ah?
Adraka means to, are you aware of?
Yes.
To be aware of?
Adra means to be aware of. Ka is the pronoun. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِعَةُ. And are you aware of what is al-Qari'ah, the striking calamity?
I'm sorry, what is Adraka again? What is Adraka again?
You're not aware of it?
Oh,
Okay, you got it. All right.
doesn't
وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ. If you made review of Surah Humaza, you would have known what was وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ, because we did it in that surah. وَمَا أَدَرَاكَ, and are you aware of? أَدَرَى is the verb, ka is the pronoun, detachable pronoun. أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِعَةُ, what is the striking calamity? Okay, so Allah starts off by saying the striking calamity. In another translation is the striking hour, referring to the day of judgment, both of them. مَا الْقَارِعَةُ. So the immediate question is, what is al-Qariy'ah? What is the striking calamity? I don't know anything like that. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِيَةُ. Rhetorical question is, are you even aware of the striking hour? You know how you ask somebody, do you know this? And they say, yeah. You sure? Yeah. Really? You know how you just make them aware of how they don't know something by repeatedly asking? That's the purpose of it. That each ayah just hammers in the fact that we are not aware of what is actually al-Qariy'ah. Okay? The last verse, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِيَةُ, is essentially rhetorical. Are you even aware of? No, you're not, so let me tell you. Which is the next verse. Everybody clear so far? وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِعَةُ يَوْمَ يَكُونُ النَّاسُ كَالْفَرَاشِ الْمَبْثُوثِ. Yawma means what? Day. So yawma, a day. It's indefinite, right? So al-Qari'ah is a day, is a day. Yakunu nasu. So the word yakunu comes from the verb, I don't know why I'm writing now when I didn't write before. The verb yakunu comes from the verb kana, which means to be, was. Okay? You will see this word over and over in the Quran. Kana. Kana literally means was, but it also translates as to be, trying to describe a situation. So yawma yakunu, a day where annasu means what? People. Is it definite or indefinite?
Definite.
Definite. So how would you translate annasu? The people. So translate from yawma yakunu nasu. Yawma yakunu annasu. How would you translate it?
The day where.
Not the day.
A day where.
A day.
The people. Where.
The people. Yakunu. It's trying to describe a situation.
Will be.
Will be. A day where people will be. Yes?
Well, where is the where come?
It's implied in the translation because a lot of times you will have to fill in the words when you translate it. But yakunu, the word itself, is describing a particular situation. So it's describing the situation of the people. Yakunu an-nasu. Yawma yakunu an-nasu. A day where the people will be kal-farash. How many parts to this word? It's a trick question. How many parts to this word?
2.
No. Three. Obviously, if it's not 2, it has to be 3. No brainer. Ka is the first part. Alif lam is the second part. Farash is the third part. So ka, the word ka, the letter ka, is a particle, and it is used to show comparison. To use an example, like, very popular word today. Like, okay. But when you say like, you are trying to give an example. The people will be like obviously it's a definite word, farash. The word farash means moths. Moth.
Where the people will be like the moths.
Yeah. A day where people will be like moths. The word mabthuth. Okay, let's see if you guys can get this. This is a little review for Ustad Abdullah's class. Okay, so ka is a particle, correct? Al-farash, al-mabthuth. Those two words put together, what are they? Al-farash is what? Moth. What is a moth? How would you categorize that word in grammar?
No.
Noun. So al-farash is a noun. Al-mabthuth is what? Hmm? It's an adjective. How are they matching? Yes. Hmm? Sifat mawsuf. Sifat mawsuf. Right? So sifat is this, meaning is the quality. Al-farash is the mawsuf, meaning it is what it's describing. Right? But more than that, how are these two words mirroring each other? Remember when we talked about noun and adjective and how they have to match each other in terms of gender, in terms of number, in terms of being definite or indefinite. So how are these two words matching each other? Huh? They're both definite. Both of them have alif lam. Right? Both of them have alif lam. This is masculine. This is also masculine. Okay? Now, let me see if you guys can get the connection. Why would both these words have a kasra? Kal farashil mabthuthi. Because of the kaf. The letter kaf is just like fi, ba, right? Ala, ila. There are some words which will give the word after it a kasra. Okay? So kal farashil mabthuthi. Do you get that? This is how you're supposed to be applying whatever you learn from your second class to this. So when you look at it, or just any other Arabic sentence, you are supposed to take every word and see how it is on its own and how it fits into the general sentence, right? Which is how you're going to be tested in this one. That I'll just give you a couple of ayats and you will have to go through every single word of the ayah. You will have to say whether it's a noun, verb, or preposition. And one of the sentences will definitely be you trying to piece together the entire thing. That these two will become subject predicate, these two are what you call noun and adjective and thing and etc. etc. Alright.
So I don't get it. Like the kal farashi mabthuth, like just because of the kal.
Not because of the kal, because of the kaf. Okay. So take away the kaf, you are left with al-farash, right?
Al-farashu, right?
It'll be al-farashu because that's the default haraka, right? Al-farashu, al-mabthuthu. But because of the kaf, which is giving this word a kasra, this word automatically gets a kasra because they are supposed to be exactly the same, right? Make sense?
Yeah.
So the word al-farash means moths. The word mabthuth, it comes from the verb batha. Batha is essentially ba and a tha with a tajdeed on top. Batha. Batha means to spread something, to spread out something. Okay? So if you were to translate it, you will say like moths that are spread out.
Wait, so what is bassa mean again?
Batha is the verb which means to spread something. When you're spreading something, you are trying to say it is not all in one place. Everything is
Scattered.
scattered. Exactly. So, like moths scattered. Like scattered moths. So, are you aware of the striking hour, al-Qariy'ah? It's a day where people will be like scattered moths. Do you see how the translation comes together? It's a day where people will be like scattered moths. What's the imagery here? Moth, for two reasons. It's a very puny sort of insect,
Fragile.
fragile, and people, if every single person from Adam alayhi salam till the last person until the world ends is resurrected on that plane, and everybody scattered about, it numbers in the trillions, right? So scattered moths, nobody will be in one place. Scattered moths, nobody will be in one place. There's another reason why the word moth was used. Because the scattered moths also show weakness beyond the fact that the moth itself is weak. Even the weakest of things, if put together, are strong, right? You can rip one paper, but try ripping a yellow page. Unless you're a Hulk or something, right? Impossible. But take one or take 10, you can very easily rip it apart. But they won't even be together to even show a sort of strength. Everybody will be scattered about, worried about themselves. What are moths attracted to?
Light.
Fire,
Fire.
right? So that's also the imagery that is given, right?
So what do they eat? What do they eat?
What do they eat?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're attracted to fire. How can they eat fire?
No, they're attracted to fire, meaning they're attracted to the light.
Oh.
In Bug's Life, they had that one thing about where this one moth was flying to the light. Like, don't look at it. Well, I can't help it. It's so beautiful. And then he electrocutes himself. Right? So, they're attracted to it. But that's just one understanding of the verse. The main purpose of using the word scattered and moths is to show the weakness and to show how people will be reacting on the Day of Judgment, right? Any other questions? No. Next one. وَتَكُونُ الْجِبَالُ كَالْعِهْنِ الْمَنْفُوشِ. The word takunu is exactly the same. What's the difference?
It's a ta.
Hmm?
It's a ta.
Ta and
Yeah.
ta and ya, correct? When you go through verbs, right, more in detail, you will see that each verb has 14 forms. Right? 6 are for third person, 3 for masculine, 3 for feminine, and within those 3 you have the singular, the dual for 2 people, and you have the plural for 3 or more. That's 6. And then you have 6 more for the second person. For the second person, 3 for masculine, 3 for feminine. Each of the 3 is singular, dual, and plural. The last 2 is first person. The first one is singular when you're referring to yourself, I, and the last one is we. So that's 14. So takunu is one form of the word yakunu. It's exactly the same. But they are referring to different genders. Not necessarily. It can also be when they are switching from the third person to the second person. Alright? So takunu means the same. It is using a word to describe the situation. What's the situation? Al-jibal. What is al-jibal?
Mountains.
Mountains. What does al-ihn mean? Any idea?
So watakunu is what, and where and what?
And where the mountains will be.
Okay.
A lot of times you have to fill in the translation.
Yeah.
The word jibal is plural. It's obviously a noun. It's plural. What's the singular?
Jabalun.
Jabal. You know how we say Jabal Uhud, right? Jabal is mountain, and Jibal is mountains. The word Ihn, again, the letter Kaf is used before the word Ihn. Why? Because you are showing a comparison. The mountains will be like this particular thing. The word Ihn means wool.
So the word ihni means wool.
Wool, yes.
So the translation be, and where the mountains will be like scattered wool.
Not scattered. Why would it be the same translation?
Different word.
Wool.
Oh, my thoughts. I read it wrong.
Al-manfush. Okay. Al-manfush means carded.
What does it mean?
Carded.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean carded?
It's a machine that is okay. So when you get pure unprocessed wool, everything is together, right? Bunched together. So it's essentially a machine which separates the fibers. You know when you pull apart something and you see the fibers in it? When you pull apart a cotton wool or something, you see the fibers, right? So to separate the fibers, you have this instrument where everything is just made straight. So the imagery that is given is of mountains floating as light as wool. And not only being together, but essentially just disintegrating. Think of it. Not the most, but one of the most weakest creatures on this earth is probably a moth. And in the very next verse, Allah shows the fate of one of His heaviest creations on earth. Right? The mountains are described as pegs for the earth. In Amma Yatasa'alun in Surah Naba, the first surah of the 30th juz, وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا, and the mountains are pegs. What's the function of a peg?
Hold something in place.
Hold something in place. So mountains hold the earth in place. Now, if something like that if something like that can just be floating around or be as light as wool and disintegrating, then you are sort of getting the image of what al-Qariy'ah is supposed to actually be. So the two verses, the fate of people will not just be like moths, but the fate of bigger creation than people. The biggest you can think of is volcanoes and mountains, right? Even the largest ones will be very, very fragile, close to breaking point. There is no difference between how much power or how much strength a person had in this world, because on that day everything's on a level field. Everybody's on the same level, from the largest to the smallest. Understand? It's juxtaposing two different extremes.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the mountain example,
Yes.
is it true the same way, well, it says in the Quran that it's used as pegs, the same way that it's up to the surface of the earth where we can see it, it's the same distance down to the core of the earth?
I'm not sure about the core, but
So, because I think when you need to hold something in place, the distances in the middle have to be the same,
Yeah.
like top and bottom.
it's logical, right?
Yeah, I think I've heard that scientifically proven.
But-
I actually heard it's bigger in size under the ground than
Just
above.
like anything else, right? I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes the roots of trees can extend far beyond the length of a tree itself,
Right.
right? Icebergs look very small
Right.
on the surface, but underneath they are
Yeah.
extremely huge. Mountains are exactly the same. So you can just sort of get the image of it, right? So that was the description of al-Qariy'ah. Right? That's what we said the surah contains. That was the first part. The second part is a glimpse of the people who will get rewarded and the people who will get punished. Alright, so let's go through that. فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ. So, therefore, fa means so, amma is used for as for. So, as for the person, man means what? Who. So, as for who or whom, thaqulat mawazinu. You have to take these two words together. Let's see if you guys can figure it out. Thaqulat, any idea? The word thaqula means to be or become heavy. To be or to become heavy. So a rock is already heavy. But say you start adding water to a container, the more water you add, the more heavier it gets. You understand? So it's used to describe both. Something was already heavy from the beginning or it becomes heavy. So thaqulat becomes heavy in this particular situation. Mawazinu. Mawazinu is two parts. It's two parts, right? This ha is a pronoun. It means he or his. Who is it referring to? Which particular word is it referring to?
Heavy.
Whom? No.
None.
Man.
Man.
Yeah. Whom.
You would only use a pronoun in a sentence when you already mentioned it before, right? So, his mawazino.
And what this mawazin means?
Mawazino is the plural of the word mizan. Mizan means what?
Scale.
Scale. Mawazinu, the plural would be scales. Balance. The word mizan is used for different meanings. It doesn't only mean scale, it also means balance, as in being balanced, being moderate. Alright? So, mawazinu, his scales. So, let's go through the entire word. فَأَمَّا, so therefore, as for the person whose scales become heavy. Do you see where everything is coming from? Fa. So, amma, as for man, that person. ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ, whose scales become heavy. Remember we said the word thaqula means what? To be or become heavy. A scale will only become heavy if a lot is put on it, correct? So it becomes heavy. So the fate of the person whose scales become heavy. فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. No, sorry. فهو في عيشة راضية. Therefore, huwa means what? He. Fi means Fi means in. Isha. The word Isha means life. One word that means life. The word hayat is also used for life. That's more common, right? Isha means a living, more specifically. A life, a living. Radiya means pleasant. So, he will be in a pleasant life, in a pleasant living. Do you see how it comes together?
Oh, so that's where the word radiyallahu comes from, right? Radiyallahu anhu.
Rada means what? To be pleased. So radiyallahu anhu means Allah is pleased with them. So pleased, pleasant, same connotation, right? But for different situations. So he will be in a pleasant life. Why doesn't Allah use any specific imagery, adjective, or something to describe the reward? The word Isha encompasses everything that a person will receive in Jannah, in shorthand form. You know, when we say that person is living the life, we have a certain imagery of what the life is. Money, house, cars, woman, man, however way you want to say it, right? It gets more obnoxious, more outrageous, depending on who you're talking to, right? People have different ideas of what life is, right? But when you say the life, he is living the life, you are implying something. You are saying that this person has nothing to worry about. Right? He has nothing to worry about. So a person whose scales become heavy by his good deeds, and I say this in quote because no matter how many good deeds a person has, all those good deeds must pass the muster of Allah. Allah has to be pleased with those good deeds first. What if every good deed wasn't sincere? Then what? So after it passes the muster of Allah and through the mercy of Allah, when those good deeds are heavy enough to outweigh your bad deeds, then a person will be living a pleasant life. Okay? فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُ is the condition. Is the condition. If a person's, not literally, there's no if in the ayah itself, but you can look at it as a condition. If a person fills this criteria, then huwa fi 'ishatin radiyah, he will be living a pleasant life. That will be the reward of making his scales heavy. You understand?
Is this Isha goes with the name Aisha?
No, it's not the same. Right? Right?
Anything to do with the salah, Isha?
No, that doesn't have a ya. Okay?
So, I'm sorry, what's the literal word, literal meaning again?
Aisha. Aisha means life
Just life.
or living.
Everything will occur.
You know when we say living standards, living, so Aisha. How a person will live is very pleasant. Carry on. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ. Exactly the same as the other verse. The only difference is خَفَّ. The word خَفَّ, the word خَفَّت is in the verse. It comes from the verb خَفَّ. خَفَّ means to become light.
Khafata.
خَفَّ. You see, the word خَفَّت is in the verse, right? Is in the ayah. Kha, fa, and ta. But the verb it comes from is خَفَّ. Kha, fa, with the tajdid on top.
I'm sorry, what does it mean again?
Khaffa means to become light. It's opposites. This entire surah is opposites. Allah talks about moths, then He talks about mountains. He talks about scales becoming heavy, now He's talking about scales becoming light. Understand? He spoke about the life being pleasant. A pleasant living for those whose scales become heavy. Now He will be talking about
Becoming light.
people, the conditions of those whose scales were light, meaning their good deeds were outweighed by their bad deeds. وَأَمَّا, and as for
whom?
man, those people whom خَفَّت became light,
Yes.
mawazinu, their scales. So as for those people whose scales became light, exactly the same word, mawazinu. Everybody following? And as for those people whose scales became light. When we say became light, we mean that their good deeds weren't strong enough to become heavy. You understand? It can happen in two ways. It can happen because that person didn't have enough good deeds to begin with, or it can mean that that person's good deeds, the quantity was not matched by the quality. He had a lot, but not all of them were accepted, and it shrunk, and it became light. You understand? And as a result, خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُ, his scales also became light. His condition will be فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. So, ummu means what? Mother, but in this case it means home, abode, home. Why? Because a child always returns to the mother, right? So ummu, home. His abode, his final place will be hawiyah. Hawiyah means a pit, abyss, very, 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 very deep hole. فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. His abode will be hawiyah, a very deep pit.
So like a very deep hole.
Very deep hole. When we say abyss, we don't mean something that's 10 feet deep.
So like hummu means home, right? Hummu, who. The who is
Fa means so.
uh,
Ummu means home. Who is referring to
His.
the person mentioned in the previous verse.
okay.
His.
His. So, it's
So
must-
his
must-
abode.
Okay.
So his abode will be hawiyah.
Okay.
Will be hawiyah. Pit. And obviously it's another word for the word Jahannam. right? That will be his abode. And then another rhetorical question at the end. وَمَا أَدَرَاكَ مَا هِيَ. And are you aware of what is that? The word hiya means what? The word hiya. Her. Do you know what that is? The reason that word is used is because we spoke about it once. The word narun, fire, is a feminine word, right? So wama adaraka. We went through this phrase 3 times now. Wama adaraka. And are you aware of ma hiya? The word ma is not the Hindi mahiya, right? It sounds very similar, but it's not that. The word ma means what? That. Hiya, she. So are you aware of what that is? That's how you would literally translate it. Are you aware of what that is? And what that are you referring to?
The abyss.
The abyss. So are you aware of hawiyah? The word hawiyah is ending in what letter?
Huh?
Huh?
Wait.
No, the word hawiyah. What letter is it ending on? What's the last letter? Da marbuto. That da is an indication that the word is feminine. Therefore, the word hiya is used. وَمَا أَدَرَاكَ مَا هِيَ. Are you aware of what is that? Referring to the word hawiyah. You see how it's looping back, right? وَمَا أَدَرَاكَ مَا هِيَ. Are you aware of what is that? Are you aware of that? No? Then narun
So
hamiyah.
here is that
It's
is
ended that way, but the actual word is basically this. Here.
What's the ha at the end before it's from?
Let me see if I can find it, but I didn't come across it. Actually. It's part of the word in this particular situation. Here.
Wait, can you just go over ayat number 9?
For ummuhu hawiya?
Yeah.
Fa is so, or then, or therefore. Ummu means home, abode. Hu, his. So his abode is hawiya, is the pit.
And it's referring to Jahannam, right?
Yeah.
the word here is that is
The word hiya literally means she. But when you translate it, you won't say she, you'll just say it. Are you aware of what that is, or that?
Not okay. So ha ya ha. Right? So there's hiya
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the ta marbuta.
Mm-hmm.
So here
That's not a tamarbuta.
no?
That's a ha.
So it's ha ya ha.
Haya and a ha.
So okay. Are you aware of what that is?
Are you aware of what that is?
So here the hiya is referring to that the feminine. What is what is the ha after that? I don't understand the word.
Okay, hold on.
Hiya.
I'll get back to that in the 5-minute break
Okay.
before we start our Study Abdullah's class. Alright, so keep that in mind. But the translation that you will be doing is, and are you aware of what that is? And the word that, obviously, you are referring to Hawiya. Narun Hamiya. Narun means fire. Hamiya means intensely hot.
So fire that is intensely hot.
Intensely hot. Intensely hot fire. What's the reason of using that particular adjective? A fire by default is hot. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There are different intensities, there are different degrees of it, which is why the word hamia is used. Hamia, when it's used intensely hot, it means from top to bottom is the same temperature. If you hold up a candle or say a stove, right? You can maybe put your finger at the top, but not right in the middle or at the bottom. Why? Because that's where it's hot. The fire from white to blue to red to orange to red, right? That's how, as it's losing heat, it changes color, right? And although it's very hot at the top, it's hotter at the bottom. So the nar, which is being described here, is that every single portion of it in that entire pit is the same degree, no matter where you are. You understand the imagery? Every single part of that fire is the same intensity. There's no reprieve from that fire.
So the translation is fire that is intensely hot.
Narun hamia, a fire, because the word narun is indefinite. A fire that is intensely hot. It's a noun and an adjective, right? Narun hamiyatun, a fire that is intensely hot, or an intensely hot fire.
Seems to contradict because what I learned that there's different parts of Jahannam.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are going to be in the bottom the most.
This is just one part of Jahannam. When we say Jahannam, we're not referring to every single punishment. Just like how when you use different words to say the Day of Judgment, you're not referring to a particular portion of it. Say the resurrection or the hisab, right? You are referring to the entire event. So when these words are used to say Jahannam, we don't mean a particular part. We're just referring to the place where people get punished. Understand? And each portion of Jahannam, according to their level, according to the hadith, there are different punishments, right? The